Hi, I'm August Keller, and this is my review of Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. This movie, it surrounds impressive action with fundamentally flawed writing. So I found it very polarized. There are times when I really disliked the movie, and then there are times where it's very enjoyable. But I think as a whole, it's hard for me to really get into a movie when I feel like the writing is just it's like almost like a checklist of all the things that I dislike from blockbuster movies. So let's break them down. So first of all, there's so much exposition. It's punishing how much exposition is being directly dumped on us constantly. I think almost all the dialogue is exposition. And I don't think that's even really an exaggeration. And this movie's 3 hours long, and the plot is just there's so much plot. It's so convoluted. There's so many side plots that are just not necessary. And it's just like hard to keep up. And it's also very formulaic at the same time. So it's not like the story's like complex and thought provoking. It's just a lot of stuff. There are so many MacGuffins. It's a MacGuffin to get to a MacGuffin to get to a MacGuffin. I think there are literally like 3 MacGuffins that have to get combined at the end. And then there's a place that's kind of a MacGuffin too. Like I said, it's very convoluted. The stakes are about as high as possible, so they're very numbing. And I find that just disengaging. Like when the stakes are that high, it actually takes away from the tension because when the stakes are so high, there's no real like mystery about what's going to happen. Things must turn out a certain way when the stakes are that high. I found it to be very contrived a lot of the times. The dialogue is very unnatural. Like I said, the characters are just either mostly it's just stating exposition, or they're kind of doing this like waxing poetic thing that I just found very pretentious because this movie is not about anything. It's about action set pieces. The formulas are very predictable. There's a romance in it that I found very half-hearted. I mean, I'm not even sure if they're really committing to the romance. It's kind of like, it's a romance if you want it to be, but we also know that some people might not be down with that, so it's kind of like half-hearted. And also the protagonist is just about the biggest Mary Sue I've ever seen. I mean, this movie is basically making him out to be like a messiah. And he's just like, who is he as a person? Like all he ever does is he just does the right thing. He's the best guy in the world. He's not interesting. There's no like internal conflicts. There's no arc, of course. Like he doesn't grow. He has no flaws. He's just action man that does the action things that the action hero does. And he's just the best guy. The script, like I said, is constantly telling rather than showing. So it's hard to keep up because I don't see what's happening. I'm just having to like follow this dialogue. And then there's also less with more. So those are 2 big like problems I have with movies in general. I think more is less. Keep it concise, keep it easy to follow. Those are actually the smartest movies in my opinion. When you can make something powerful with simplicity. And this is not that. Also, there's no sincere emotions at all. I don't think there's really any drama. It's almost like there's not even a first act. We just kind of start in the middle of the movie where the plot is already happening and we're just got to keep up. And the characters are not, their relationships aren't growing. There's nothing internal, like I said. So there's no emotions. The characters are just cliche shells. Like I said, the protagonist is a Mary Sue, but all the side characters are just fitting into these generic side character roles. So yeah, there's no drama. There's no emotions. So this really flattens the acting, I think. It's very superficial. Everyone's one note. Like everyone's just like, oh, we got to do the thing. We got to do the thing the whole movie. There's no real variation. I mean, I know Simon Pegg is supposed to be the humor, and he does that thing, but he's doing that one note the whole movie. So they're just constantly doing the same note. And I also found the chemistry to be very artificial. It just feels very phony to me. And yeah, I know people are going to say, oh, they shed tears. But I think this is a good point to bring up that, tears are not vulnerability. I mean, it's more vulnerable to have tears than not tears. But I think just because a character cries in one scene when it's seems kind of out of nowhere, that doesn't make it the whole performance vulnerable. It's just kind of like a thing that happened. Uh, so yeah, I know a lot of people want to praise this movie or this story for opposing AI, and I think that's great. I'm down with that. Like, yes, let's critique AI for sure, but I think it's kind of ironic that this movie also doesn't feel very human. There's not a lot of relatability. There's not a lot of intimacy. There's none, actually. So it's kind of funny to me that this is the champion against AI when it doesn't show us humanity. You know what I mean? So yeah, the story, I don't have a lot of positive to say about it, honestly. Technically, I think this is where people will defend this movie. The final reckoning really only comes alive during set pieces, though. There's big spectacle moments, of course, but I think the direction really dampens the fun by being so self-serious. This tone is so serious, like it's so important. And, comparing it to some previous Mission Impossible movies, I think they were able to inject some more levity, a little more camp to it and make it more fun, like an adventure. This is just kind of like the most serious thing ever. The cinematography is clear, the action is very clear, and there are fleeting bits of composition like angles and some cool lighting, but I also found it pretty, lacking in color, and there are some times when I found it a little murky too, like the underwater scenes are very can be dark and drab, but generally the cinematography is good. The editing, I think, constructs very confident action. The action, again, is very clear. But I found it to really struggle through the broader structure of the film. Like I said, it doesn't really even feel like there's a first act. We're just kind of like, it's all second act, and then it's all third act. So I found it very disjointed and bloated. Sometimes we just cut from one scene to another scene kind of suddenly. There's a lot of flashbacking that can be confusing. And yeah, the story is just overstuffed. So the editing, it can only... it can't handle all that. The sound is, driven by action elements. The music and the production design I both found very generic. The production design has the espionage and some globetrotting. The music has that famous Mission Impossible theme song. But honestly, all that is pretty muted. I just kind of felt like this could be any action movie. There's nothing really that makes it feel like a Mission Impossible movie specifically. The music I didn't really notice for 95% of the time. The production design, kind of the same. The cast, of course, has Tom Cruise. Everyone knows him. And there's a good fame around him, like with Angela Bassett and Simon Pegg. Good diversity, too. I liked seeing a good amount of people of color. But one thing that really did kind of bother me is that Hayley Atwell is significantly younger than Tom Cruise, like almost young enough to be his daughter. And I actually thought in the previous movie, in Dead Reckoning, that that's kind of the thing they were setting up, was that he's kind of like a mentor figure to her. But this movie kind of seemed to be playing this middle ground between are they romantic? And I don't know, I found that I was a little uncomfortable with that. So, I don't know if that's a nitpick or not. I mean, people are allowed to date, if they're consenting adults. But, I think personally I would rather Tom Cruise have a romantic interest that's closer in age to him. I thought it would have been actually cool to have Atwell be more of like a mentee to him. I thought that would have been an interesting dynamic to actually like deepen his character, but I guess they're not really interested in doing things like that. But yeah, I think also the fact that they were kind of like half-hearting the romance, I think is an indication that they know that it's a little strange. So anyways, the last thing, of course, is that the stunt work is amazing. Everyone knows that. I don't feel like I even need to really say that. I mean, Tom Cruise is, underwater. He's on a plane. He's falling out of the sky. He's doing all this stunt work. I mean, you can't deny that that's, great stuff. And that almost single-handedly saves this film. I mean, any enjoyment that anyone's going to get out of this movie is from that stuff specifically. So yeah, I really kind of feel like The Final Reckoning is kind of this lumbering culmination of a long-lived franchise that kind of just has all this baggage that a eighth movie might have. I mean, it's kind of amazing that it's taken this long to actually get to this point. And I hope that, if they keep making them, they can find a way to kind of reel that stuff back in. Like, there's just like almost like 5 different plot lines happening at once during the climax, and that's just too many. But on the other hand, the stunts are as amazing as ever. So basically, the final reckoning has amplified strengths and amplified weaknesses. And in the end, I kind of found it to be a mixed bag, I guess is how I'd put it. I wouldn't say it's a bad movie, but I wouldn't call it a good movie either. I think it's a movie that some people are going to really enjoy and other people are really going to not get much out of. And I'm probably one of the people that could do without a movie like this personally. So yeah, that's all I have to say about that. If you like what I'm doing here, please feel free to like and subscribe. I also have an Instagram linked in the description. I'd love support there or here, whatever you can do, I appreciate. But at the very least, I appreciate you watching this, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thanks. Bye.